Welcome to the Living Legacy Podcast, where we feature wealth experts, investors, and entrepreneurs as they share their inspiring journey to living their best life. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, hey everybody, Brian Fouts here, host of the Living Legacy Podcast, where I feature top leaders across many industries. Now, I have Michael Poggi here of the Millionaires Group. Now, Michael is an expert at helping people invest their money in quarter-acre buildable lots in fast-growing resorts, communities, all across the nation. But he helps investors to invest their money in turnkey strategies, also like apartments, buildings, partnerships, and house flipping partnerships. So Michael has done a lot of stuff in the real estate space, which is why I'm so happy to have him here. He's also an author on Amazon with some best-selling books that he has over 30 years of experience and hundreds of investment properties and thousands of students and investor partnerships. So he has amazing amount of experience in this space. All right. Now, also, this episode is brought to you by the Living Legacy Association. Now, here at Living Legacy, our mission is to empower clients with the knowledge and the strategies to achieve financial prosperity. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're looking to save as much money as you can on taxes, protect your current assets, or identify investments and investment opportunities. We're here to help people from all walks of life, from surgeons to dentists, to entrepreneurs, to teachers and police officers. To learn more, go to our website at livinglegacyassociation.com or contact us at support@livinglegacyassociation.com. All right, Michael, super glad to have you here, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah. So, Michael, to get started, can you just give us a good idea of how you actually got started in this space you're currently in? Where did the ideas come from to get your start in investing into these buildable lots and real estate?
I started off as a young man in Chicago, working as a stockbroker downtown Chicago, and of course as a cold caller and then a broker and so on. And I noticed that my clients that would give me money to invest in the stock market had way more money in real estate deals. So I started to spend time with them, whether it was at lunch or dinner, and I would start to interview my wealthiest clients and say, hey, how much do you keep in the stock market? And how much do you keep in real estate? And it was always where they would keep, let's say, 500 grand in the stock market and 10 million in real estate. I couldn't believe it. So I became a very successful stockbroker and made friends with a lot of investors who taught me that, you know, they buy land, they buy houses, they buy investment properties like shopping centers, development projects, and things like that. So I started to learn from them. Fast forward, 9 years later, I was able to own a brokerage firm and become very successful as a stock brokerage firm owner. And I developed a lot of investors and customers that had stocks, but had way more money in real estate. And many of them had an IRA, an individual retirement account. And their IRA was not with me at the stock brokerage firm. So I would ask them, why is your IRA not with our brokerage firm? And they were laughing because they said, Mike, we don't invest in stocks and mutual funds in our IRA. We use our IRA to invest in real estate. I said, how is that possible? I mean, we don't allow that here. And they said, well, that's because your brokerage firm doesn't tell you that you have to have a self-directed IRA, which is not at a brokerage firm and not at a bank, to be able to invest in real estate. And I said, you got to be kidding me. So I learned a lot from them. They had most of their money in a self-directed IRA that was not at Schwab, not at Fidelity, and they ended up using it for everything that I always dreamed of. So I finally sold my stock brokerage firm in Chicago for quite a bit of money. I moved to Florida. That was about 27 years ago. And I started to invest in real estate myself and practiced and made mistakes. But then they also partnered with me. So I got to invest with them in their real estate deals. And they taught me the ropes, how to build houses, how to, buy small apartment buildings, how to fix and flip houses. And next thing you know, I spent most of my time becoming an expert at investing in real estate. And the more time went by, I became an expert at what not to do, like what not to invest in and how not to spend my money in the wrong places from the mistakes that I made. And I finally got a chance to write some books and things like that.
And that's awesome. And I know one of the milestones you just mentioned there was pretty powerful. And it's that you were following that, call it the traditional path or traditional knowledge out there of the masses. And you went down that path of owning the brokerage firm, investing in the markets, and assuming that that's what everybody else did. But the milestone or the turning point, it sounds like, is when you were exposed to what the wealthy are doing differently than everybody else. That's not taught out there. It's not taught to everybody else. They
Yes.
do things differently and they get different results because of it.
You nailed it, Brian, because most people like myself grew up in a family where we never had any real estate investment training. All we knew was call your stockbroker, call your financial planner, call your banker, call your accountant. And they all told you, buy mutual funds, keep adding money every month, and just hold them for long term. And one day you'll be able to retire. It's a big lie. It's a bunch of baloney. And the stock market is gambling, in my opinion, even though you might make money for 3 or 4 years on the upside. What about the next 3 or 4 years when it gets tanked and you lose most or all of your principal? I went through it myself, Brian. I had a lot of money in stocks, probably 1.4 million at one time, and I lost probably about $1 million. And I ended up leaving the stock business and closed down my stock accounts with 400,000 or so and put that into real estate and never looked back. I will never buy a stock on the stock market or a mutual fund and hope that one day I may be able to retire. It's just too slow. And not only that, you can't leverage stocks. Remember, Brian, if you and I bought a mutual fund, we have to spend dollar for dollar. But if we want to buy a house, we only need 10 or 20% down. And that's a big difference because we can buy many houses with 10% down rather than buy one thing like a mutual fund. So I'm so excited to help people to learn these techniques because no one's teaching this stuff. Hardly anybody is showing people how to do real estate rather than the stock brokerage stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I went through that traditional path as well. I had the 401k, lost more than half of it at one point in time, and started to look around and said, I'm doing the same thing as everybody else around me is doing and getting the same results, but I want different results. So I've got to do something different. And so what you're talking about is exactly that. It is something different. But the thing that I also want to make sure that everybody who's listening picks up on is that if you want to just be, give away your control to somebody else, the 401k is fine. Put it in the markets. You don't have any control of it. Also, you don't know what's going to happen. But when you want to have control of your future, if you want to do something different, that's what Michael's talking about right here. That's what you're talking about, and what you're doing is something different. But it's accessing the people, the resources that are already doing this stuff. And they're
not only that, Brian, too, a lot of people that have 401k plans where they currently work don't know that they can borrow money from their 401k plan legally without a penalty and take out up to $50,000 and use it for real estate. So that's one thing that I've been helping a lot of people with is, how do you start to use real estate investing, even though all you have is a 401k plan where you work? The sooner you can get money out of your 401k plan and put it into real estate, you can start to leverage yourself and get better results and safer results than trying to go with the 401k plan ideas are.
Yeah. And so for everybody who's listening to, just what Michael said there is very powerful. There are things that you can do with traditional accounts that you might not be aware of. And so it's extremely important, in my opinion, to make sure that you are aware or that you're connected to the right people that can show you or help you do these kinds of things, because there is a massive amount of wealth being transferred right now. It's going to be happening faster and faster, in my opinion. What side do you want to be on? Well, Michael's talking about being on the winning side, not the other side of that transfer.
Yes.
So Michael, so that being said, what are some of the biggest pitfalls or mistakes that you've learned that you feel that people should be aware of when they're listening to this and they're thinking, my goodness, this is powerful stuff, but what should I be concerned about? What are some challenges they should be aware of?
Well, the first thing is they need to really pay attention to what their IRA is in now, meaning what investments and what return they have achieved or not achieved. Same thing with their 401k plan. They need to take a really close look at it, pull out the statements, look at how much you put in and look at how much you've made, and don't count how much you deposited every month, because that's not money you made. That's just money you deposited. Take a close look at really what's going on. I mean, find out how much money you put into your IRA every year and figure out, are your investments up or down and what percentage gain did you make? If you're only making 6 or 8% return on either one of those portfolios, then inflation is about the same. So you're not getting ahead at all. You can never retire on $500,000 or $1 million. When you get older, it's just not enough money. So if you're not getting into the $4 or $5 million range, you could be stuck working at a job for the rest of your life, even when you don't want to anymore. And that's painful. So take a close look at your finances. The second thing is that you don't have to be an expert at fixing and flipping homes, or fixing, flipping apartment buildings, or buying land, you would want to seek out turnkey, done for you strategies where someone else that you can trust, that has a track record, that is an expert, can help you with using your funds into a deal where maybe you don't have enough money to do the whole deal, but you have part of the money. So maybe you have 50 grand or 80 grand or 20 grand, where you can use that amount to be involved in a turnkey system, whether it's land or houses or apartment buildings, and be able to start to get ahead and spend time doing what you do best. Maybe you're a doctor, maybe you're a veterinarian, maybe you're a dentist, whatever it is, do what you do best and let the experts handle the turnkey, done for you real estate stuff, because doing it yourself is very time consuming and very difficult and has a learning curve.
Yeah. And additionally, one of the things that I've done in my own portfolio is when you have an IRA or self-directed IRA, is that something that is, I want to have working for me. I don't want to work for it.
Yes.
That makes sense. So so the IRAs, the self-directed ones, I'd always put those into more of a passive strategies with people that I know, like, and trust, someone like Michael, of course, here, because that's where I want those things working for me. My active things are things that benefit me today, right now. Yeah. That's been always my approach. So you can work on both things, but it's, you have to have that knowledge though of what are you trying to accomplish first off? What's the outcome that you want? But also, Michael, one thing we've talked about is really who are you working with? Yeah. But that is one of the most important things that I think a lot of people don't really think about, or they miss this part of it. When you're doing these kinds of strategies, you've got to understand who are you working with. Agreed. And Michael, we've had some success with lots of people, but we are having success with people that are inside of our community now. And that to me is just one of the most amazing things. So can you talk about? Yeah, it's very exciting. Can you talk about some of the clients that we've had that are working with you?
Yes. I've been able to help some people, Brian, to purchase quarter-acre buildable vacant lots in fast-growing resort communities. Not in Florida, that's for sure, because Florida's too expensive and the taxes are too high. But we buy in resort communities that are under 20 grand. So let's say $12,000 or $15,000. Gotcha. And these are communities that are only about 10% built out. That's why they're so cheap, because when they're 80% built out, then they're too expensive. So if we go into communities that are, on their way up, then we have a chance to ride the wave. And when the community is almost finished, when there's hardly any lots left, those lots may be 100 grand or 150 grand or more. And that's why we accumulate lots in those areas. So I've been able to help a lot of students of yours that maybe have an IRA or an old 401k plan, or a current 401k plan for that matter, to get involved in turnkey, done for you, where we find the lots, we make sure they're buildable, we make sure that they have no liens on the property, and they have utilities, paved roads, and are near Walmarts and pharmacies and things like that. Once we identified those, they go into a student's account or an investor's account to take the place of stocks or mutual funds. And the results have been 10 times faster than stocks and mutual funds, and much safer. So it's definitely an avenue to look at, but I can help people to use their IRAs and 401k plans or their brokerage account to go into those turnkey strategies with little or no, with very little money down.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. And that's one of the things that I want people to be aware of, is that there are opportunities out there that, the average person can get into. You just got to be aware of these things. You got to have the knowledge, and very important, you've got to have the relationship as well. That's a very important thing for me and for Michael as well. I know we talked about this one. Those relationships are invaluable. Who do you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so if you're on this podcast, you're actually being exposed to this stuff, and that's very, very important to me as well. So Michael, that being said, a question I have for you is, who are your mentors? Who are the people that you've actually learned from?
Again, some of them were my stock clients from years ago when I was a young man in Chicago. They took me under their wing. And some of them were my dad's good old buddies, who basically, wanted to make sure they took care of me because of my dad. And they were able to take me to shopping centers and show me how to make offers on shopping centers, how to make offers on apartment buildings. And so I learned from my actual stock clients as a stockbroker. And it made me realize that I was in the wrong place. I mean, the stock and mutual fund business is horrible. People hardly ever get to retirement from that. So I got to learn from those people. but also any of my partners that are experts in those different strategies, whether it's apartments or houses or land, I got to learn from them as well. And they're the experts. So what I do is I help a student to invest with me in apartment buildings through my partners that have been doing it for a long time. They've got a track record. They rarely make mistakes anymore. And although, nothing's easy, like when we had COVID, that slowed us down. But other than, big disasters like that, we're pretty tight and pretty crisp at getting results without having to make stupid, foolish mistakes like overpaying or overbuilding where we put too much into a property. Those days are long over where we do stupid things like that anymore.
Yeah. And so one thing I like what you just said right there that is very important is that your mentors also are your partners.
Yeah. And not only that, Brian, too, I do learn from taking courses every year. I still spend probably between $15,000 and $20,000 every year learning from guys like yourself that have courses available where I can study. And a lot of times, I'll learn things, just one thing only from a course that helps me to save or make a lot of money. So I'm always studying and always learning and getting help from other experts that may know just one thing that I don't know from that particular area of strategy, like raising private money or, how to leverage your money to be in real estate. All those ideas are all very valuable for people to learn.
Awesome. That's very cool. All right, Michael, once again, I appreciate you sharing these topics and stuff and these unique strategies that can really help people that have, call it their nest egg locked up in an IRA, locked up in a 401k, but really to free it and get control of it. Because if you want to build wealth and live that legacy, control is extremely important when it comes to your money.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that being said, Michael, is there anything else you'd love to share with our guests and our listeners before we close it out?
I just want to make sure that I thank you again because you have been amazing at helping so many people, not just recently, but even before COVID when everybody was rocking and rolling. You've helped so many people to learn things and opened up so many doors for people. I know a lot of people are grateful and thankful for your big heart and all the things you do for everyone else. You're very, very unselfish when in helping other people, and I appreciate that, especially for the things you've done for me as well. So I want to thank you again.
I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you so much. What would be a good link for them to go to learn more? And we'll put a link below as well. So, but what would be a good place for them to go?
Well, they can text me on my private cell phone number, which that would help. Then my secretary would set up a time to be able to put them on my calendar. So my direct cell phone number for texting would be 954-258-6954. And then I'll make sure one of my staff members gets you on my calendar and make sure we can spend some time evaluating what you have now and where you'd like to go.
Sounds good. And we'll put that link down below for everybody as well. So once again, everybody, thank you for being here on the Living Legacy podcast. And thank you, Michael, as well.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Living Legacy podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.